Hello, welcome to this week's XP Weekly, where we are now on season 3. Every week coming to you at 5 o'clock across various platforms. And then we do actually launch the audio podcast at noon on a Tuesday following every Friday live. So make sure you're logged in and subscribed to YouTube, and also follow us on the podcast platforms as well. So what have we got in store for this week? Well, as the screen shows, we've raised £17 million in equity over the last 5 or 6 years. And some of the things we're going to be talking about today is how we've done that and things that you can take away and use in your own business to speak to private investors, raise investment for your property projects in the most efficient way possible. So on the agenda today is the 10th of January. We're going to be looking at some of the top 7. Actually, I think there might be 6, but the top tech apps that you need in your business to streamline efficiencies and make you more productive and a better business. Start and scale your property development business in 2025. We've been talking about this a lot in December and January. We want you to have your best year yet. So we're going to be talking about some of the ways in which you can get involved in some education with us to do that exactly, start and scale your property development business. Why should you book in a HMO officer's visit before you start works? Jack's obviously been through a lot of that recently, so he's got some top tips on why you should be bringing them out to view your projects. And then we're going to be looking at how to raise private investment, or 2 of the tips and 2 of the things we do to raise private equity for our property deals. The importance of senior leadership meetings, the difference between licensing and planning for HMOs. And I've come off the back of yesterday's, I haven't done a building control visit for a long time. So I was like this anxious little kid, like following this guy around as he was checking stuff and getting his tape measure out and like checking things. And there were some things out of it that I think other people viewing and listening to this can get some value from. So I'm going to be talking you through some very specific building control issues that he raised on site with us, so that hopefully you don't make some of the same mistakes on your sites as well. And then we've got a market overview from Carter Jonas at the end. They've recently released some really interesting articles and reviews around sort of how they see the 2025 market playing out, so we can have a bit of a discussion around that. And as always, if you're tuning in, we've got a Q&A at the end. So this is live. Get your questions and comments down below. If you've got any burning desires within your business, burning questions that you really want to ask us, drop them in the comments and we can either jump on it straight away as they come in, or we'll leave them to the Q&A at the end of the session. Cool. Let's go. Jumping in, whether it's 6, 7, 8 tech apps, I can't remember how many we put on the list, but I just want to talk you through some of the key things that we use within our business to streamline efficiencies, to make more money, to save costs, and to communicate within the team. So HubSpot is a CRM platform. I was literally seeing a WhatsApp group earlier asking what CRM type platforms people use within their business earlier, and I had sort of responded with a few that we've used in the past. So HubSpot is really great. It's a really powerful CRM platform. It does cost a lot of money when you get to a certain stage. It's free to start with. And then what they do is when you need more than like 2,000 contacts in your email database, they start ramping up the cost. And it's hundreds and thousands of pounds, to be honest, once you start getting into the sort of marketing packages that they offer. But it's very powerful. It is a free tool. If you don't have huge amounts of email marketing, don't have a huge amount of sort of contacts at the moment, HubSpot is a great tool for you to use to send email campaigns, to manage all of your investor database, all of your clients and your contractors and things like that. Other ones that I've used in the past, so we actually use HubSpot within XP, but we use MailChimp within Aura, and that's actually fine for what we need. It can do basic email campaigns, and it's another way of kind of generating all of the leads that we have on our website automatically go into our MailChimp and then get hit with kind of email sales funnel campaigns and things like that. So MailChimp is another good one. Xero, we can't live without. This is a finance and accounting bookkeeping platform, basically. Really good user interface. You've got it as an app on your phone. You've got it as a web page login as well. But really powerful. All of our bookkeepers and accountants use Xero, and that's where they create all of our P&Ls, our balance sheets, everything for us to understand the financial financial health or not health of the business, depending on how it's going. But at least the figures are there for you to see, and it's in a very easily digestible way of sort of sharing it and entering the information and understanding it. So Xero accounting software is amazing. If you're not using ChatGPT within your business, you're definitely going to be losing out, because everyone is going to be using AI in some shape or form going forward. So understand how to use it. You can download desktop apps for ChatGPT. You can use it on your phone. Like for me, it's now, the way I describe ChatGPT is like it's my era's Google. So when I'm telling my parents, like, why don't you just Google it? Like most kids nowadays will say, well, we'll just ask ChatGPT. You know, that is the new era. So absolutely use ChatGPT within your business.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say, like, if you're not using ChatGPT to like save you time, it's an absolute game changer. Just like literally like every single little task is like now for me, like integrated into some form of like stat or questionnaire. Like as an example, yesterday I was trying to print something off, but it was a photo of a text, and I just chucked the photo into ChatGPT and I said, "Can you write this up for me on a Word document?" Did it, printed it, done, and like saves you so much time.
Yeah, nice. I mean, there's the uses are endless. I mean, we probably should do you about a month ago, just before Christmas, did a workshop with the XP team, or Jack did a workshop where it was all about integrating ChatGPT into your business, and he went through kind of almost everyone in the business and made some examples of how they could use it within their function, within the sales process, within the marketing function, within the surveying practice. So maybe we'll do a whole sort of section on sort of ways in which you can use ChatGPT another time. If you would like that, comment down below, and we'll bring it into next week or the week after. Project management tools, Asana, Monday.com. We've been using Asana for a long time now, but we are looking to transition to Monday.com, mainly because we feel like Monday.com has more functionality for a lower price. Asana's got us to where we need it to be, but for us, the next step is Monday.com. And then one that we've recently introduced that I think everyone should be looking at: you can't manage what you don't measure. And Toggle, which is this purple icon, Toggle time tracking is a fantastic way of measuring where you're spending your time. And people always say they don't have enough time, but most of the time they don't realize where the inefficiencies are. So by using Toggle, you can actually track, every minute of every day what you're doing when, and then you can see it in a really good report. So let's say you time track for a month, and actually at the end of that month, you look at the report and you see where your time's spent, and you can break it down into things like, if you're a business owner, you want to be spending your time, like we said last week, on high value tasks. So you could label it or tag it high value task, low value task. If you get to the end of the month and you see that you're spending 80% of your time on low value tasks, well, you need to do something about that. And Toggle can help that. So you can tag things, you can specifically tag it to certain clients, you can break it down into different sections. There's really like countless kind of ways in which you can break it down in Toggle. But you can do a start-stop on your desktop app or your phone to say, I'm starting this task, and stopping it when you finish the task. Again, kind of when you know you're doing this, you're even more kind of focused in the zone when you're doing tasks. So kind of not only does it help you analyze where you're spending your time, but it does make you, because you're consciously aware that you're tracking your time, you're way more efficient with it. So yeah, absolutely use Toggle to track your time within your business. Anything you want to say, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously other bits. Well, I mean, we use so much tech in different areas, such as Canva is used heavily in the marketing space, and we used what's that one that we use from a sales dashboard perspective?
Datebox.
Datebox. So there will be various different softwares or tech that you will use in other areas of the business, but these are like the fundamentals that we've CRM, accounting, processing, filing and emailing and data sharing, project management, ChatGPT is like kind of like support and time tracking are key. And
Canva was one that should have been on this list, to be fair. That was the one that I forgot to put that on there, but yeah, Canva is definitely an eight one.
Yeah, I would say that we probably spend most of our time on G Suites. I mean, we live through like Excel sheets, presentations, Word documents, calendars, emails. That is like like, yeah,
for,
through
for
and
for
through.
collaboration, like I don't think there's anything better than the G Suite stuff. Like we use OneDrive within Aura, and it does a job, but it's not as collaborative. It's not as easy to use and to sort of share documents and work on documents consecutively. It's a bit more clunky than it is with G Suite. So yeah, G Suite is just everything. I mean, I've actually just started also using Google Keep, which I'd never really used before. I know we use sort of Asana and Mondays as like a project management tool, and it's almost like a task tracking type tool, but I find Google Keep just a lot more simple as just a very basic to-do list. And you can collaborate with your team on Google Keep as well, and you can have like check boxes of when you've done it. And it's for me just a simplified version of Asana and Mondays, but for me, from a like a day-to-day use perspective, I really like Google Keep. Cool. On to point number 2. Do you want to run through this?
Yeah, sure. So backed by popular demand, and Ben and I did a couple of webinars collaborating with Tyler Newman this last week, which was amazing. I've actually never been on a webinar that's been so many people on there, and actually such good retention and questions and people all over the world. I think there was someone tuning in from South Africa. But yeah, evidently we've scaled our business in 6 years to over 80 million delivered value. I know that sounds like huge, crazy numbers. That was obviously our aspirations to grow where we are, but everyone can work towards their goals. And we've been documenting what we're doing, sharing templates, building out, basically an education syllabus so that you too, as a listener, can sort of achieve the goals that you would like to. If it's up to or even more, we think we've got the foundations of made all the mistakes and learned from a lot of mistakes to get there. But we, forever learning and forever continuous improvement, which is why we spend time and money on education. Actually, I was just looking at my toggle, Ben, and my summary for weirdly it's got American dates, but December, my second highest, well, actually my highest task that I've spent most time doing is education.
Nice.
48 hours in December, apparently.
Wow.
Which is pretty good going.
Is that educating yourself or educating others?
Yeah, so me learning about stuff.
Nice.
Which is actually crazy because the only task above that is without projects, so untrackable items. So technically that is what I've spent most of my time doing. And I thought that would be relevant given that we were just talking about time tracking and toggle. I've somehow managed to pull my microphone out of my desk.
You can hear it, still hear you fine.
Anyway, I'm back now. Bit depressed. I know we're deviating completely. Bit depressing. Guess what my next highest thing that I did?
Sat on the toilet.
Traveling.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you
went on holiday though.
Sorry,
you went on holiday.
I did. Anyway, we digress. Back to scale, back to growing businesses, back to people that want to hit their goals for 2025. So we are hosting a 2-day event with Tyler in central London, and the reason why we're doing the webinars is to raise awareness and make sure that we actually single out people that we think that would be very beneficial to do that. And it will be all built around finding deals, funding deals, raising capital to get those deals funded, and actually finding the deals, because these two parcels are like the golden goose to making sure you can start or scale your business. Everything else, I was actually speaking to someone earlier today, pretty much everything else outside of those two items, raising money and finding deals, is employable. So that makes your life easier to bring the right team together to deliver that. But yeah, if you're interested, comment scale below. It will be limited spaces, and it's just a one-off this 2-day event. So make sure you hit us up, and if you've got any questions, DM us about it, and we will answer them. I suppose you can actually just ask in the question box, and we'll answer them live. Anything else did I miss?
No, all good. No, I'm super excited. We love this kind of more intimate platform where you've got sort of 10 people around a table. They've got like genuine burning questions that they're struggling with in their business, and within half an hour they get huge clarity on where they're headed, what strategy they need to kind of get them to where they want to be. They get their answers, their questions answered. So yeah, I love kind of helping businesses grow and flourish, and stopping people from making mistakes that we've made, and hopefully kind of sharing that learning. I mean, we've spent I don't know how much it is, but about over 100 grand on our own knowledge and education with non-exec directors, and business coaching and things like that. And, there's huge amounts of learnings that we've had over the last 6-7 years. And yeah, we love sharing it. So yeah, if you're interested in starting and scaling your development business in 2025, drop scale in the comments below, and we'll send you more details about the 2-day event we've got next weekend. Cool. So why should you book in a HMO officer visit before you start works?
Yeah, so this is actually project specific in Central Suites. We're on site with a new HMO. Weirdly, going to be our second, probably 7-bed HMO that we've delivered. Even though I normally bang the drum that we don't go over 6 beds, but if it's there to be had, why not? And the principle was, and we discussed this, Ben, ourselves, around the issue with having a bedroom with a skylight and not a Velux, so it's a flat skylight. And essentially, there was some grey area. Go on, Cheddar, come in.
Sorry, you can't hear him that much.
Oh, right, okay. He's barking at himself in the mirror. So principally, there was a grey area where perception is like what actually. Oh, the screen's gone. What is actually possible to do with a HMO bedroom? Are you allowed a Velux? Are you allowed a glazed window, or are you allowed a flat roof light? And basically, they're concerned about actual daylight and ventilation. But because it's a grey area, and we'll come on to talk about licensing and planning of HMOs shortly. I just wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth that we could put that as a bedroom, because if we have to go from 6 beds to 7 beds at the moment, if we just do a 6-bed, we don't need planning, so we don't even need to notify the neighbours that we're doing an HMO in the property. If we go for the 7th bedroom, and then we then get knocked back on that bedroom not being able to be a bedroom, we've gone through all of the cost of planning and upsetting probably most of the neighbours for nothing. So I wanted to get the HMO officer on site and just wriggle out that knot and get confirmation. Anyway, 175 quid later, the planning officer, which I think is really cheap, the HMO licensing officer came to site, walked around the whole site. We went through everything from a floor plan perspective, from a fire compartmentation perspective, from where the kitchens are, what the kitchen appliances need to be, the size standards, the fire ratings, the light in that bedroom, and she didn't have an issue with it at all. And she actually, it's kind of like the way pre-apps used to be.
Yeah, sounds great.
But for HMOs, yeah. And she then went and consulted fire, building control, and consulted all the consultants, came back and wrote me basically a summary to say, fine with that ground floor bedroom only having a skylight. And, we would actually be commenting on the planning application for a sui generis application. So I've now got the confidence to upset my neighbours because I'm going to get my 7th room, obviously subject to planning, but I know that the 50% of the battle is done. And the beauty of that is we haven't started works, we haven't put in first fix, we haven't even started considering corridors, hallways, kitchens, locations. And doing that now is going to save you 175 quid 1,000 times over, because we're not going to make the mistake of going, put that there. Then when the HMO licensing officer comes to give us a HMO license, they go, actually, we can't do that. So that's going to have to be removed. And to put that in perspective for you as HMO operators, even if you know what you're doing, I would do it on the first 5 every day of the week, because you're then building a relationship, you're understanding more of how they see perspective of properties. And it's just worth its weight in gold. Now, beyond 5, we don't do it on every asset. We do it on some more complexity ones. And what I would sort of use as a case study is this HMO lady was telling me that she's just been to a property to sign it off. And unbeknown to her, they redesigned the kitchen in the very last stages of fitting the kitchens. Everyone knows after you've done pretty much all the job, your kitchen goes in, then flooring, and that's pretty much like one of the final stages of the build internally, so to speak. And she said that this property investor that's doing HMO is actually based in Oxfordshire, fitted a hob near the exit route of the kitchen. Now, I didn't know that you can't do that. You have to fit it more like deeper
1800.
Exactly. And a lot of people wouldn't know that. And now they've got to move their whole kitchen around just to get that license. And that is going to cost minimum of 2.5-3 grand. And you'll probably lose minimum of a month's rent. So let's say it's a 6-bed, that's 3.5 grand. So you've lost 7 grand for the sake of not paying for a planning officer to come visit for 175 quid. It's honestly like an absolute no-brainer, and they actually do turn up and they actually do reply to you.
Yeah, and they send you a written response.
Yeah, obviously pre-apps is a different story. You know, it's going to be Christmas before they reply on that. But yeah, amazing value. Don't know why people don't do it more. You get to speak them face to face. Also, the benefit is when I was walking around with her, it puts a face to a name and she can sort of see what we do. And you build a bit of trust because she's now got to also sign off our other property, which is in Wallingford, which I'm sure there's, you know, probably a few things that we're going to have to iron out towards the end of the project. So for any HMO landlord out there, look into it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that like face to face is just it's so invaluable, because that trust that you build, I guarantee there'll be something that's a little bit of a grey area in like your next 1 or 2 HMOs, that because you've built that relationship, she'll be more willing to like turn a blind eye, or be like, okay, yeah, fair enough, like I get the justification, fine, I'll sign it off, type thing, you know, just because you've made that. Yeah.
Equally, if you're converting a townhouse to a 7-bedroom shared house, does sound quite daunting. But when she was on site, she was like, this 34-meter squared kitchen living space.
That's massive.
She was like, this is going to be amazing. This is going to feel, and it's going to have bifold doors that open out into a south-facing garden, and you know they sort of understand it from the inside out, rather than being like 7 bedrooms on that street, and work in your favour.
Yeah, nice, like it. And more should do it. Cool. So we had our boardroom session yesterday. We had 12 people in the group, and we had a really, really good sort of deep dive into raising private finance. We've raised over £17 million now in sort of equity through various different investment partners. And there were 2 things that I showed the group, and almost all of them say, can you send me that pack afterwards? You know, which we did. And it was all factored around 2 documents that we generally create every time that we look for private investment and have to share information. And it's, who are they investing in? So we have an investment deck that is sort of standalone, and it's something that we have, you know, in PDF format, ready to go. And if anyone requests further information about who we are and what we've done, it is the document that gets sent out, and that is the development track record document. It's a sales brochure, you know, about us, basically. You really are like banging your own drum, which you don't often like to do, or sort of it's not a very English thing to do, is it? You know, touting yourself. But fundamentally, you're trying to raise investment here, so you have to present yourself in the best light, and you have to sell yourself. So it really is a what have you done? Where have you done it? What types of projects have you worked on? In fact, I'll bring it up in a minute, and we'll go to a more deep dive through kind of how we present it and the types of things that we put in there, and then also what are they investing in. So every project that we do, and we're trying to raise money for, we'll have what we call sort of an investment snapshot. What you don't want to do when you're first kind of sending a deal out to someone, I think, is overloading them with information. There'll be a lot of people, and some people that want the detail, but that comes next. What you're really doing with this investment snapshot is providing them enough information that it's a bit of a teaser. It's, here's the headline figures, here's the location, here's a little bit about the project itself and some nice pretty pictures or whatever. But it's basically a teaser to get somebody to raise their hand up, say, I'm interested, send me more information, and then the opportunity to book in another call or a meeting or a coffee or whatever, whatever that next step is. So there are 2 things here. Jack, anything you want to touch on these whilst I bring up the development track record, and we can go through that?
Yeah, I mean, just obviously this is your shop window. This is to give someone a bit of a snapshot of evidently the track record should be an ever evolving document that you improve and update and keep in line with the movements of your business. You know, add on awards, add on the team, add on the projects that you've delivered, etc. Add the backstory. But the project stuff, which Ben touched on, is really just to start get the conversation going. It's not to tell them everything about that deal. You want to tell them that story, and we're all human beings, and we like stories. So that's also what the reader's got to get the message from. You know, where have you come from? Where did you go? What's that song? Something Kathmandu. Great tune that, but painting the picture so they can understand the journey, because you know there's not a lot that can be told in the detail from, you know, potentially social medias or whatever it may be. So having this is also useful for you to look back and your team to what you're known for, what you're building, what your goals are, where you've got to where you are. But yeah, and I'm waffling now, so let's just talk through the Catmando.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the development track record document is a little bit about us at the front, as a wider, you know, here's a one page. If you just had to read this one page, you'd know a fair amount about who we are as a business and what we do. And then it goes into kind of our experience very briefly. You know, you don't want to overload people with lots of information. This is like high level figures. This is the amount we've delivered. This is what we've got in the delivery process. This is what we've got in our pipeline. You know, some pretty pictures giving a little bit of kind of social proof. You know, we've got a little photo of us on our site tour with sort of 20 people that came to visit for the day on one of our sites. Pipeline. So what are we actively working on? We're currently working on the best part of 65 units, 30 million pounds worth of GDV across 5 sites. And did we exchange today on the new one?
Not yet.
Not yet. Cool. So we're expecting to get another 8 units exchanged today. But yeah, a little bit about the pipeline. And then going on to kind of, again, recognition. What awards have you won? Is there anything that you can build trust and credibility within your niche, within your industry? Company organization, you know, people want to understand what the substance is behind us. You know, so a lot of people don't know that we've got, you know, the best part of 9 people, you know, within the team, from finance and legals to assistant project managers to project managers. You know, there's a lot of people behind just Jack and I to delivering those 30 million pounds worth of property. So it's great to show people that you've got the capacity to take on new projects. You know, that they want to invest in a new project. They want to understand that you've got the resources available to actually deliver on that. And then a little bit about us as directors. You know, who are the leaders of the business? That's Jack and I. You know, it's our background, it's our history. It's, again, telling that story of where you've come from and all of the experience you've got along the way. A little bit about some of the team as well, more in depth. Who we've got as like board advisors. What the other ecosystem of businesses are that we've got within our ecosystem. So everyone sort of that tunes in regularly will know that we run XP Surveys, or Architecture, XP Property, Aparo Social, and Central Suite. And that takes it from like surveying the site all the way through to managing the site. And we've got different businesses that kind of act within that ecosystem that feed into each other, basically. So this is just not only, you know, not are we trying to get investment from a property development and show that we've got property development expertise, but actually we've got business now. You know, we've built other businesses. We've got service-based businesses that run alongside the property development stuff. So again, we understand how business operate, not just necessarily being good at delivering schemes, and you know, because that is one piece of the puzzle. Really, you still need to understand finance, sales, marketing within any property business. What does our group structure look like? Just to give a bit of insight into sort of how we are structured from a tax perspective, from a legal entity perspective, you know, showing that their investment is ring fenced within an SPV within that structure. And then a bit of a you know, background about where you've come from, how you've grown to get to where you are, some track record information in terms of the performance of your previous projects. So what the project was, what the gross development value was, what the profit was, and how long it took. And then just some case studies. So going through some of the case studies that we've worked on, just to give some insight into specific projects. And that is kind of, you know, that for us, I think paints a really good picture in a consolidated slide deck that people can take away bits or all of it, or, you know, don't have to read everything, but they get a really good sense of who we are, what we're about, what we're capable of, and hopefully shows you off to the best of your abilities. So if you want a copy of this track record document, so you can take pieces and build your own around it, then let us know down below. But yeah, that's how we've been able to raise a fair amount of capital over the last couple of years.
Yeah, cool. And for listeners out there, you know, we've even seen situations where we've got this out to, you know, like a debt lender or whatever maybe, and they go, actually, we don't think you've got the right experience. And we've then had to build, I remember we recently built a track record document that specifically outlined our experience in working with basements. And then we pulled, you know, the first 3 pages of that one that you've just seen, and then specifically case studies of projects with basements that we've worked on to then send that over. And we've done that, you know, with HMOs, with social housing portfolio experience, with, and you do have to adapt sometimes to cater for that. But this is almost like if you were to print this off and drop it in the street, someone could pick it up and get a really good understanding of who the team are, what the business is, what we've done, and understand, you know, a lot more about the business just from giving it a bit of a read.
Yeah, nice. Cool. If you get value from these podcasts, you know, we're here every week. It does take time, but we feel like we're getting some really good traction now. We get a lot of, you know, amazing comments. I had to thank somebody in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in earlier, because, you know, it wasn't, I didn't ask them to do it, but they genuinely just posted in the group to say, look, anyone looking to set goals for 2025, watch this YouTube video. It was the video that we did either last week or the week before about setting goals for 2025 and how you can sort of structure that. You know, if you haven't listened to it, then go back. Yeah, they posted it in the WhatsApp group saying, look, I recommend watching this because I've got huge amounts of value from it, and I'm now, you know, using some of the templates and stuff that these guys have talked about. So we are really keen to get as much traction on Amazon and Spotify as we possibly can. So please do rate us on Spotify and leave a review for us on Apple if you can. So yeah, if you're getting value from it, please don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe. Cool. This was something I wanted to put in for this week, the importance of senior leadership meetings. For various reasons, there's a few things that have happened this week and are happening next week that I think would be quite useful for people. But fundamentally, you are the leader of your business. You need to be showing up every week. You need to be setting the vision of where you want to go to. And basically that filters down through your team. Every year for the past, I'd say 3 years now, we've been doing a sort of quarterly strategy session with all of the ecosystem. So XP Surveys, Central Suites, and Aura jump on kind of either in-person strategy day or Zoom call in, because some team are in London, some team are in Henley, so often one of the company's Zoom calls in. But we've generally got 25, 30 people in one place where Jack and I can talk through what's happened over the last quarter, where we're heading as a business, what's happened, both fun stuff and business stuff, what challenges there have been, you know, and setting the standout for everyone to understand where we're heading. And that's, I think, important for new people that have joined the business, and also everyone else within the business that sort of squirreling away doing their own jobs, but don't necessarily get the bigger picture. So these types of strategy days and senior leadership meetings are a really good way of filtering down the information. The other thing that I've had this week is a really good conversation within Aura with my sort of senior leadership team, whereby we've really picked holes in the processes. We've brought all of that experience together, all of the knowledge from the different sectors that they're working in within the business. And we've had some really good conversations around brainstorming efficiencies within the business. You know, I've had Francesco come in and say, look, this is how we create our Revit drawings. And then somebody else within the team, Leo, says, well, this is actually how we create our 2D CAD drawings. They're two different things for those that don't know. It's 2D versus 3D, different ways of working. But how can we basically create families of drawings and information that works between the both without having that senior leadership team meeting and bringing both parties together? Both of them were kind of off working on their own things, creating really good systems and processes and efficiencies within the whole process, but within their own process, not the company process. So what I wanted to do, and I think the importance of having senior leadership meetings, is to give everyone, you know, you are the driving force in your business. You need to be speaking to each department and making sure that they are all driving in the right direction and all speaking to each other to make sure that they've got efficiencies within the process. So that, I think it was just to get across that I think sometimes I think bringing 5 senior people within a business into one room for 1 hour, and I think about the cost to the business of that, you know, that could be like 700-800 quid for, you know, that hour's work, but it's very high valuable tasks to be doing, because you will solve so many more problems within that 1 hour than you would separately trying to do them, you know, outside of that one meeting.
Yeah, so completely agree. An analogy that, if I may, an analogy that I would like to use for this is it's a bit like, let's say you have a team of 5 and regardless, you have a 2x5, and you basically say, right, guys, we're going to go to the lake and we're all going to go fishing. You're going to go over there, you're going to go over there, you're going to go over there, and we're going to wave to each other. And at the end of the day, see how many fish we caught. And the analogy is, if you meet frequently, like every hour, and go, actually, I just caught a big carp over there, and there seems to be a lot of activity. So why don't we all go there and see how we get on? And then you go there, and you have wasted 5 minutes not doing the actual fishing task, but you've all gone to where and then you go, actually, now the sun's over there, it's warmed up this part of the lake, and John's just caught another fish, so let's go over there and catch more. And generally, you'll be more successful. But as a business owner, you're telling your team the vision, so let's all go catch fish, but I want you all to meet up every hour and discuss where successful and move around. And then you bugger off and go in the warm and set up another business or something. So and also, set up another fishing team on another lake. So
your analogy.
That's it.
So we'll be organising a nice fishing trip for the summer. Cool, good stuff. Yeah, that was it really. Like I say, we had our boardroom session yesterday. We are pretty much full now, but if you would be interested in joining, should somebody drop out, then do get in contact, because we don't just offer the boardroom. The boardroom, we do offer other sort of consultancy services. If you want more of an intimate one-to-one session, we do offer one-to-one consultancy for an hour, or we do offer a 4-hour session with Jack and I in person to really put a business plan together and figure out how you get to where you want to be. So yeah, if you're interested in more sort of intimate consultation with Jack and I, then get in touch as well. Cool. You mentioned HMOs earlier, about getting HMO officers out before starting works. And now you're going to be talking about the difference between licensing and planning for HMOs, which I think is very useful information for most people, because they don't understand they're two different things.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think about this before I understand what I'm thinking about, if that makes sense. It's one of those things that I just constantly forget what the difference is and what means what. So essentially, we're talking about two different things here: licensing and planning. So you have a license for something, you can obviously operate that particular, asset type. So in this instance, a licensing sits with the managing agent or the person that carries out the license agreement, and then they can then have that license under that sort of proviso for 5 years, and that might have stipulations about. Obviously there's general stipulations like fire compliance and things that you need to abide by as far as HMO licensing goes. But there's also things like how many people you can have within that particular building, and so on and so forth. So that is from a licensing perspective, and licensing have their own agenda. If you Google HMO licensing standards in Oxfordshire, you'll pull up a new report which has actually just come out with sizes, allocation for appliances, the compliance that Ben talked about, the hob being a certain distance from the hallway, and it's heightened because you've got potentially multiple people that don't know each other and know when they're cooking, and not living as a dwelling house, which is like a family dwelling house, because they're all sort of living their own life, and it's multiple adults all under one roof. Now, from a planning perspective, you're now thinking about actually the use and the changes which have to go to public consultation, and the planning officer is different to the HMO licensing officer. So to acknowledge the difference between the two and make sure that you're ticking both boxes at all times is really difficult, because planning is difficult as it is and licensing is difficult as it is. So to make sure all of them are ticked, because what you will find is to adhere to some areas from a licensing or planning perspective, you might compromise t'other. So it's super, super difficult, but you basically need to understand the difference and make sure that when you are going to planning or are going to licensing, which in most HMOs, licensing's obviously required, depending on what location you're in, but for 3 tenants or above, where we are in Oxfordshire, it's not actually required for 4 tenants if it's not a 3-story building. But you need to understand how to do that for most HMOs. From a planning perspective, you might not actually need to do much of planning, which can sometimes mean you breed unhealthy habits in doing it at HMO after HMO, and then do a planning one with planning and go, we've always done that, but that actually now is not catered for or correct. So that is where I would recommend getting a Either I've gone all blurry. Either a planning consultant that knows HMOs really well, or an architect that's very experienced in HMOs, and not just any planning consultant and not just any architectural firm, because there are specific nuances which take it a whole nother level from a planning perspective. But a good architect would be able to understand licensing as well if they've operated in that particular area.
Yeah, I think the planning consultant there is the key one. Like there are planning consultants that I would go to because I know they're so in the nitty gritty of these quirky kind of, like you say, nuanced HMO situations where it's a very niche sort of scenario, and they've dealt with it in the past. Like literally I had an email last night from one of my planning consultants with an appeal case that has recently been squashed by the inspectorate for having kitchenettes in bedrooms, creating sort of self-contained units. So I think it was Islington Council, but effectively there was enforcement called on the property because the planning officer suggested that each bedroom should not have their own kitchen facilities, but it went to appeal, and it was overturned because there was a shared kitchen in the property. The fact that bedrooms had their own cooking facilities, which was basically very basic cooking facilities that they didn't classify as almost like permanent day-to-day kitchen facilities, like microwaves and like air fryers and like slow cookers, things like that. They squashed the appeal and said there's no issue with this because they think from a planning legality perspective that it's fine to have those types of facilities in a HMO. It's still classified as a HMO and not a shared self-contained flat. So that's a massive appeal case actually. And I know that a lot of planning consultants that I work with probably won't have that appeal case in their back pocket because they're not looking for those weird nuance type property investor hacks, I guess. Whereas some planning consultants that we work with absolutely do work on those nuanced type projects. And one other thing that I think is quite prevalent in this is you've got licensing, you've got planning, and you've also got building control. And there was a conversation on WhatsApp earlier about what do people do when it goes to a 7-person HMO? Is that still classified under building regs as a residential dwelling, or does it then go into another bracket whereby a whole host of new regulations come in? And my experience is that it depends on the building control body. I've had some building control bodies ask for huge upgrades in terms of acoustic requirements between bedrooms, so almost like double boarding walls, thick insulation in between the studs, sometimes even having like resilient bars to kind of stop airborne noise and things like that. And I've had other building control officers for 8, 9, 10 bedroom flats that have been happy because there's not been a huge amount of work going on to rearrange the layout, so they can't get you to change and upgrade absolutely everything. They're just happy and satisfied with an upgraded fire detection system. So again, it really does depend on the building control body that you're using, but licensing and planning, I'd say, is more rigid than necessarily what a building control officer may or may not accept. But yeah, something else to throw into the mix: licensing, planning, and building regs. So you've really got to know what you're doing when you're doing stepping into large HMOs for sure. Cool. And on to that with building control. Yeah, speaking of building control, I was actually meant to be doing these on a one-by-one basis, so let me just do that because otherwise everyone's going to get overloaded with loads of photos. But anyway, the first one that I wanted to run through is something that comes up a lot, if I'm honest, when you've got different changes of level, and it's when building control specify whether something is a step or a stair. Basically, something between 600 mil in height or less than 600 mil in height is classified as a step and not a stair, and doesn't need to conform to Part K requirements. And the reason I bring this up is the image on screen, and sorry for those that are on the podcast, tune in on the video podcast and you can see it live. But this image shows a concrete step which is out the rear of our project in Tame. It has a handrail at 1100 high, but that's it. Basically, there is no guarding underneath the handrail. Now, normally when you've got an internal stair, for example, you have a handrail and you have railings, don't you? You have, they have to be a maximum 100 millimeters, vertical bars to stop people falling through the stairs. Now, when you've got a step, which is less than 600 mil, you don't need guarding. It doesn't fall under the requirements of Part K building regulations. So I was basically having an argument with the building control officer yesterday because the top of this step is like 59.9 centimeters. It's like literally 599 millimeters. So like right under the requirement. Now, if he comes back to me and sort of suggest that we need to have guarding and install guarding on this step, I will be pushing back saying, look, it meets the minimum requirements. It is less than 600 mil, therefore it isn't required. And I think there's a good argument to be saying that. But you never know. Sometimes building control will make you won't take a grey area and actually force you to install it. But at least we know what we need to do. But that was the crux of it. Anything that's below 600 mil is technically a step, not a stair, and doesn't really need any guarding or Part K requirements. Second one, our builder decided to put some MDF sort of door linings and basically fill the really thick gaps with expanding foam. Definitely not something you can do. This needs to be stripped out, and proper, hardwood door linings need to go in with the correct door stops and fire fire breaks and all that sort of stuff. So that definitely needs to be changed. Building control officer picked up on a few sticky windows and doors. You need to get these adjusted so that they are don't catch and stick as you want to open them. We've installed these cool glass balustrades. They're a bit too green for my liking. I was a bit annoyed, actually. I should have got a sample of the glass, but we were under pressure to kind of get things ordered for timelines. But they're way too green for me. I wanted these to be obscure, but not necessarily obscure and green. But anyway, that's my bad. So handrails like this need to be 1100 high from an external balcony perspective. And also you're going to need, more often than not, some structural calculations to prove that they are adequate from like a bending perspective. So if he was, the building control officer was holding on top of the handrail, giving it a good wobble and giving it a bit of a test, but he will ask for structural calculations to show that the sort of the bending moment and the sort of force that you need to sort of push those push that glass is adequate and safe and been signed off from a calculation perspective, especially when you're doing something like we've done, which is a cantilevered balcony. So our glass balustrades are cantilevered, they're only fixed at the base. So they're fixed at the base, and they are free to like move at the top. So that definitely needs structural calculations. This is the big one that I wasn't really aware of, to be honest, and caught us out on almost every single front entrance door into our flats. And that is the gap between the door and the frame needs to be maximum of 4 millimeters. And we had some that were like 5, 6, 7 millimeters. But he had a little card, and I've got it here. It's one of these. I dropped it on the floor, but it's this. The building control body is Sailus on this one, but you can see it's kind of like a wedge-shaped thing. So basically what they do is they get this, they stick it in the door, and basically if they can still see this green edge, then it is within the 2 to 4 mil tolerance. If it is over here and it goes so far in the door that you can't see the green edge, that distance between the door lining and the door is too big and it has to be adjusted. And adjusting doors like this, where it's all finished and all fitted, is not a cheap thing to do and a quick thing to do. You're basically kind of almost shifting one of those door linings across. You're removing architraves. It's a real pain in the arse. So you want to make sure that your contractors are getting this right from day one. I managed to nab a couple of these from him because I thought they were pretty cool. But yeah, recommended door gap 2 to 4 mil for all doors, actually, not just front entrance doors, but all internal doors as well. Cool. What else do we have? This is just sort of stuff that needs to be done, but can often get overlooked. So these little dashes here are basically where what they call, so when you're creating openings in a property, you will what's called needle above where the lintel's going in. So they're metal like plates that you wedge into the wall to support temporarily the wall above whilst you're doing the work underneath. So you can see here they've got all of where the needles used to be. These just need to be mortared in and finished, which the contractors haven't done yet. And then this is another one. For some reason, I mean, I hadn't spotted it on some of them, but some of the bedroom doors, they didn't have intermittent strips around the doors, which basically, when you've got a protected 30-minute fire lobby, you should have intermittent strips within your doors. They look a bit like this. So basically, it's a sort of millimeter wide strip that goes all the way around your door, and you fit an intermittent strip with a brush in it. So that what happens is, if there is a fire and the fire temperature gets so hot, the intumescent means that basically it swells. So if fire gets so hot, that material within the intermittent strip expands and closes the gap so that the fire can't escape easily. So that's the idea of those intermittent strips. I much prefer them when they're rebated around the door lining, so that when the door is open, it doesn't look like this, and you can sort of see the edge of the intermittent strip because it looks a little bit ugly. So you've got the choice of either installing it in the door edge, or you install it within the door lining. And I much prefer to have it within the door lining, so it's more hidden. But yeah, hopefully that was interesting for a few people. Is sort of things that are prevalent from my building control visit yesterday that I thought I would share.
You can actually also get surface mounted stick-on ones that we fit in our listed. Yeah, when we have listed doors and we're not allowed to cut them all up.
Yeah, interesting.
Stick them on.
Nice, I like that. It's probably worth saying, actually, while we're on intermittent strips, when you've got front entrance doors or doors where you're coming from a garage into a house or something like that, you also have to have intermittent strips with cold smoke seals. So that it's not a brush anymore. It's almost like a rubber like this, where it's sort of sticking out. It creates a cold smoke seal to stop smoke from escaping as well. So,
cool, you're getting some mileage with your rubber, aren't you?
I like this. Yeah, I was chuffed. Chuffed he gave me a few. Cool.
What riveting convos, building control.
There you go. I mean, hopefully some if you find it interesting, let me know down below, because I mean, it's not for everyone, but some people will take away some things from that. Cool. Market overview.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it got emailed to me, I think is how I found it, but Carter released kind of like a really generic but quite detailed in various different areas and topics, basically like data review. We actually did one for you guys in December, which was, I think it was December, which was Savills orientated, it might be mid-November, but anyway, but this is actually specifically categorically broken down between commercial property investments, energy infrastructure, house building, living sectors, logistics, London office supply challenge, residential lettings, residential sales, rural land, and science and technology, all in obviously property. And I've had a brief read through some of these areas, and I just feel like it's really, really good learning, and probably why I was part of 48 hours learning last month. So I would highly recommend you go and read it. Maybe I could do some snapshots of some particular areas next week's episode, but I actually think the whole report's really good, and you should go and read it. To give you an example of what they cover, in the house building section, they talk about the MPPF and Labour government and what we're aiming to do and what they believe and what is Carter Jonas's take on that. In the residential market, they talk about the actual forecasted growth that they're looking to potentially see. On the ground up pod, Ben, we did predicting the future estimates. So we guessed what we think is going to happen this year. And part of that was house property pricing in the UK. And my guess was 3%. And then when I read this article, it said 2.5%. So maybe I won't be too far off for that. But yeah, go give it a read. I'll put the link in the comment section now, so that you can give it a readie over the weekend. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it as much as I haven't even finished it yet, but as much as I have been enjoying it. It looks like that link is.
I think it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll test it out. Cool.
We didn't get any questions. Where's the interaction?
Yeah,
where's our locals?
I do have to scoot off, so I can't stay on for too much longer. But if you do have a question, drop it in the comments below. If we can't answer it now, then we will answer it next week. And that goes for when this isn't live and people just watch this back. I think people think that because it's not live, I can't answer it. But we're live again next week. So, why not get your questions down below? Challenge us, see if there's something you can ask us that we don't know, and we can answer it next week as well. But unless there's anything else you wanted to run through, Jack.
Nothing in particular this end.
Lovely jubbly. Well, have a great weekend, everyone. Sorry to throw building control issues at you, but hopefully some people got some interest from that. So see you again next week.
See ya.